Welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Celestia Barby. Celestia is a confidence life coach and inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, and author from Leicester, England. She's the founder of Boss Studios VIP, a photography and video space for creatives, and Role Model Academy, where she works with others to add value to the way they think, act, and look. Welcome to the show, Celestia.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to get into your story, especially as an entrepreneur and a business owner. We haven't had enough of these kinds of episodes on the show, but I really want to help kids kind of understand what it takes to get there. A lot of kids want to start their own business, want to be creatives like you are.
Yeah.
And so I guess we should start kind of with your origin story. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and what that was like?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So I'm originally from a farmhouse in the countryside called Bringhurst. So I've been brought up with my dad, my mum, my brother and my sister. And when I was age 14, my mum and dad split up and it really affected my mental health. So going into school, I was quite a normal kid, hung around with good people, didn't have much problems until year 9. And when my mum and dad split up in year 9, I kind of started to go slightly off the rails. And for me, it was the starting point was simply getting my hair cut short at school. So when I got my hair cut short, the girls that I hung around with, they started to push me out their group and they started to call me names and basically bully me. And it really affected my mental health, considering I was going through my mum and dad splitting up at the same time. So the days went by, and what happened was I ended up sitting in the toilet on my own for a week straight. And it got to the Friday, and I was like, I can't sit in this toilet every lunch and break time for much longer, otherwise I'm going to go insane. So I decided to make friends, and these friends were people that you would call the chavs at school. Now, the chavs, it's not that they didn't have personalities, it's just that their personalities were getting involved in the wrong things that actually were really bad for your health. So after a couple of days, literally a couple of days of hanging around with them, I was walking down the hill from school, and then one of them would spark up a cigarette. So I would say, oh, okay, well, you know what I mean? I'll try a bit of that. And it was kind of like, from that moment, everything for me started to shatter and go downhill. So started off smoking, and when you have your first cigarette, you don't think that you're going to be addicted quick, but it's a couple of cigarettes in and you really can get stuck on it and addicted to it, because you don't only get addicted, but you think it's the cool thing to fit in. And I only wanted to fit in. So after the weeks went by, the next thing for me was getting on the bus and meeting these group of people that I was hanging around with out of school at a park, and then we would go to the shop and we would get somebody older than us to buy us a bottle of vodka. And I used to drink that much vodka that it just was drink till you're sick. That was what it was about. So after sort of 3 to 4 weeks, I was smoking cigarettes and I was drinking bottles of vodka on the park. Now, again, a few weeks went by and it gets to the point where you are starting to pick up bad habits. And once you pick up some bad habits, you get a feeling for a quick fix for a good feeling. And that's what it's about, having a good feeling. Because when you have a fag or have a drink, it makes you feel good in that moment. But obviously, you're not thinking about your health or your future or your mind or your soul or anything that goes with that. So for me, age 14, I was drinking, smoking, going out with a guy who was older than me, age 18, who was actually out of the school, and I was doing class A drugs, and I was clubbing at nightclubs with fake ID. So these 5 habits were the starting habits to really ruin my life. And at the start it was fun, and you know what I mean, had a bit of a laugh. But when you start doing something on a consistent basis, it really starts to deteriorate your body, your brain, the way you see life, your friendships around you, and it just stops you from being able to learn in the right ways. So leaving school, I left school with no GCSEs at all, not even one, and really bad health for a sort of 14, 15-year-old, really, really bad health. So when I left school, I was like, what am I going to do myself? Because I don't have any kind of grades or anything to get me to the next level of my what I need to do or what I want to do in my life. And believe it or not, for some strange reason, I managed to land a job really, really quickly. And it was at a hairdresser's. And I think I winged it because I had a personality at the time. I didn't have an intelligent personality, but I still had a ball of energy that was sort of sitting there, but I didn't know how to use it. So I think I won the job because I had a ball of energy. And I think she might have thought, oh, she could maybe bring some energy into our business. Maybe that's why she gave me the job. Anyway, a couple of days into the job role, I turned up late. I turned up late. Within the week, I turned up late, and then I also didn't turn up twice. So even though I won the job, because I was smoking and drinking and doing the drugs, I had no sense of time or consistency or actually having the inner strength to get up on time. And for that reason, I lost the job after a week. So after the job had been lost, I'm back at square one. So the next step for me was turning around to my mum and my dad and saying, look, like, can you help me? Is there anything that you can do? My mum had a pub, and my mum said, look, let's get you on pot wash at the pub. I'm like, okay, like, right, let's go and do a pot wash job then. So I was doing the pot wash job, still hanging around in the wrong crowd. And then the pot wash job ended up doing some kind of dessert rolls during that time, doing a few sort of ice cream balls and a bit of, you know what I mean, a bit of crumble, putting it in the microwave. And just by doing that, I thought, wow, well, why don't I go to college and do a catering course? Okay. So had this job at the castle, that was where my mum's pub was, and I was going up to the college doing a catering course, but I was still the ball of energy with no lack of consistency. So at the college course, I was in and out, rolling around, choosing when I wanted to go, what time I wanted to turn up. And to be honest, they gave me some kind of grade at the end of it, but I really don't know where that grade came from because I only turned up about once a week. I think they might have just been being kind to me. But being in the college course gave me a little bit of kind of connection to kind of trying to put some effort into life. But at the same time, I was still doing Class A drugs. And when you're doing drugs, your brain is never evolving. You're literally drowning out your soul day in, day out. And you lose all sense of value for anything and anyone. And that was one of my biggest problems, because I went from the pot wash to the making the desserts, and then I was on the bar work. Now that was a big hazard because I didn't care for anything or anyone. So as soon as the tills were counted in, I was taking cash out of my mum's till. So you can imagine feeding as much cash as you want from a till, your parents not really taking notice because they love you and they don't believe that you would do that, and basically taking advantage of your own mind, body and soul every day. Now that went on for a good 2 to 3 years. And within that 2 to 3 years, I was drink driving, I was stealing from shops, I was stealing from friends, I was doing everything that you shouldn't be doing around house parties, and not only taking drugs, but also inspiring other people to take drugs, which is a really selfish and nasty move to make. And the thing is when you've been taught or shown a certain thing from when you're at school, and you choose to take that route becomes really evil. And that's what was happening for me. The route was turning more and more evil as I decided to keep taking it. It got to the point where I lost my driving license, drink driving. And I remember just thinking, wow, I can't go to nightclubs. I can't go into places now that potentially I could have got to before, because I was in a little village in the middle of nowhere. So it was a case of like, get on the bus or get on the train. And that wasn't what I was really about. So after 7 years of doing that journey and being that person, I decided when I lost my license drink driving to see if my dad had an opportunity where he could help me move out of my mum's house, because my dad was an entrepreneur and he owned bed sits and hotels in Leicester. So I said to my dad, who I really didn't have a connection with for 7 years, I said to him, would you be able to maybe give me a bed sit and, do you know what I mean, let mum kind of cut out her hair a bit and see if I can find my own self, or see if I can do something for myself, really. So moving into this bed sit, I was still realistically the same person. I was drinking, drugs, smoking and stealing straight away, back into the wrong crowd. And not only did I leave my mum in a car and say, bye mum, I left my mum's house and filled my mum's car up with all her antiques. Filled it up. And a friend of mine, helped me pack the car. Moved into the bed sit, piled all the antiques out of the car under the bed, thinking I was going to be able to pawn them and create some financial income for myself. A couple of weeks living in the bed sit, having house parties every single night with sort of anything between 5 and 10 men, double the age of me, coming around and sitting with me in the flat. I got a phone call from my mum saying she had just been in my wardrobe in my old bedroom and pulled an antique out of a scarf. Now, at this point, I must have forgot about that one lonely antique in the scarf. And she's like, what? Why is that in your wardrobe? And obviously that created a red flag for my mum. Now, as a couple of days went by, I ended up with the police at my front door. And at this point, luckily, I hadn't pawned or sold any of the items that were in the room. They were still in the room. So in comes my brother, my mum, my sister, gallivanting in with the police behind them. And there they are, all the items in the room. And it was, my brother basically smacked my ass big time. And I lost complete connection with my family, apart from my father, who was in the bed sit with. So at that point, I'm just kind of like, you know what I mean, going to my mate's house, sleeping on a sofa, smoking pot, eating cereal for lunch, not really knowing what to do with myself, thinking, wow, this is a great life. So the turning point for me was this. And I'm so unbelievably lucky that this happened, because if it didn't, I'd probably be dead. I had a message off a guy on Facebook, and he said to me, hey, I remember meeting you out in Northampton a couple of years ago, and I remember you telling me that your dad was a property developer. I've got a new job in Leicester, and I'm really looking for somewhere to live. So at this time, I was still in the bed sit, and I said to him, well, I'll have a word with my dad for you, and I'll see if you can move in and below me, in the flat below me. And my dad was like, yeah, we can set that up. Just pass him the number and we can get it sorted. So after a couple of days, we signed a contract, and sort of 10 days went by and this guy moved in. Now, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't do drugs, and he didn't steal. Now, I'm not used to somebody like that, because everybody I'm used to was doing that. So I was like, kind of like, who is this guy? Do you know what I mean? Who is this person? So within the first month, I tried to make him steal. I tried to make him do drugs. I tried to make him drink. I tried to make him do everything that I was doing to get him on my level. And yes, in some ways it started to work, but deep down, he wasn't that guy, and he knew better than that. And what happened eventually, his habits started to turn my habits. So after 6 months, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't doing drugs, and I wasn't stealing. And it happened without me even thinking about it. I didn't even think, I'm not going to steal anymore, or I'm not going to do this. It literally just, it was just literally like I was drinking a glass of water and the fluid was just rushing out of my body down to my piss. It was like I was literally pissing it out. I was getting rid of the toxic fuels and energy that had been displaying in my life. And this person was giving me the right vision and the right habits to realize that what I was doing was actually completely off the rails. Now, there was one thing that was always in the back of my mind, and that was the fact that when I stole the items from my mum's house, yes, I didn't pawn the stuff that was taken. But 6 months before that, I had taken more stuff, and this was jewellery. Now, that had been pawned, and that was always in the back of my mind. When my mum found out about the antiques, she asked me if I'd taken anything else, and I said no, I couldn't tell her. So after the 6 months of stopping all of these negative habits that were killing me, in the back of my mind was still what I'd done. And then one day, my brother and his fiance said that they'd got the date for them getting married. And what happened was I went over to my mum's house in the countryside, and on my brother's wedding day, my mum said, well, we need to get that jewellery out of the floorboards for my brother's wife's wedding dress. Could you go and get it for me? And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my God, it's all the jewelry's gone. And I was so fortunate that day that my mum changed her mind and decided not to go under the floorboards and look for the jewelry. But as the weeks went by, she then did later on find out. And again, I had the police at my door, but this time my soul had been awakened in some way, shape or form, because the toxics of what I was doing with myself had been leaked out. And when she found out, it was so awful, because then I really lost the connection with my mother who brought me to this world. Now, the only person that was in my life, apart from the guy, the angel who came into my world, was my father at this point. And my dad was 79 years of age. And my dad said to me, right, you've got to sort yourself out. I want you going on a college course. You're going to do business, and I'm going to buy you a gym membership, and you're going to go to the gym. And my dad was quite strict, and that was something I really missed in my life. I really missed that strict person giving me some rules. And for the first time in my life, there I am, walking in the snow, because at this time I'd still lost my license drink driving. Walking in the snow, the rain, still really, really difficult to get there on time. And I started going to the gym. Now, the gym for me was an extremely indefinite, great thing that I started to do. It started to push me. I started to feel a sense of achievement. Now, when I was at college, I was still hadn't found my purpose, and you could imagine my brain was really still tangled. Even though I'd stopped doing these bad habits, my brain and my body had been really, really dismantled during the pressure that I'd put inside myself. Because inside of us, our skeleton, our lungs, our liver, our kidneys, it's so delicate. And what you put in your mouth, what you hear through your ears, and what you see through your eyes, that's what makes you up as a human being. So when I was at the college, a guy came up to me called Marvin, and he said to me, wow, you're a nice looking girl. Do you fancy being in a famous music video, modeling and dancing? So I was like, wow, well, I think I like modeling, but I'm definitely not a dancer. But you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. Let's do it. So I went down to the Sugar Hut, which is like a famous club near London in Essex. And the video was Dappy from N-Dubs, who's a UK artist. And I went in this video. I wore this huge wig and this little dress. And I basically just put my hands in the air like you just don't care. And there was 11 other girls in the video. And yeah, it was a great experience. But not knowing that the experience actually gave me a feeling. Now, when I got home, I was sort of like buzzing from it. I was like, wow, I've just done something that was a bit different. And I thought to myself, like, okay, when's this video going to launch? Because I can't wait to see it. So the video launched and it got over 1 million hits on YouTube. When the video launched, I got some inboxes on Facebook. Now, before these inboxes used to come in, I used to get really abusive messages because I was in the Leicester Mercury for stealing. I was drink driving. I was doing community service. So for the first time in my life, I got messages from strangers saying, I've seen you in this music video. You look great. Well done. I love your tattoos. I loved your hair, etc. else. Well, my wig, etc. else. So I'm thinking, wow, what can I do next that's going to help me stand out from the crowd and basically be seen? What can I do next that's going to make people come towards me and say something nice about me? And it really, really lit a fire in my soul. So I decided to get myself into like a bar job and just kind of like still try and find something to get on with. So it started off just doing some modeling. So I was modeling and doing the bar job. Now, modeling is great for confidence. Putting yourself in front of the camera is really, really good to build up your confidence because you can be creative with not only the way you look, but also your fashion and also your creativity with the place you are. So you could stand in front of a castle, you could stand in front of a river, you could stand in front of a flashy car, it's endless. It's absolutely endless of what you can do with it. And I really, really started to enjoy it. So I was working in a bar, and I was just tickling through life at this stage, not earning much money. And then the owner of Lloyd's Bank came into the bar that I was working in. So I was like having a chat with him, and he was like, "Oh, you've got a great personality. Would you like to work in a bank?" And I'm like, "A bank? Like, you've got like the journey I've been on to then be displayed with that kind of job opportunity." I was like, wow, I'd love to work in a bank. I think I do anyway. So I decided to go to the interview. And at this stage, I was telling my mum what I was doing, and I was slowly trying to regain a relationship with my family. So when my mum, my brother and my sister heard that I had a job interview for Lloyd's Bank, they started to talk to me a little bit more differently. Now, I went for a 3-process interview round, and I got the job. Now, I was sitting with my dad, who obviously is fairly old age. And I said to my dad, "Dad, on this application," because you had to fill like an application form to just send off at the last step. I said to him, "It says I've got a criminal record, Dad. Do you think that I should tick yes or no on the box?" My dad's like, "Just tick no, it's okay. It's all in the past, don't worry about it." So I was like, "Oh, okay then. I'll put no, it doesn't matter." Do you know what I mean? Sent off the form. Went into the job, got all the booklets, sat in this little room with this fan blowing. The textbook looks like this thick. I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to take me forever to learn this job." 3 weeks into the job role, 2 men with samurai swords broke into the bank and robbed 80 grand from the bank. It was a very crazy, mad thing that happened. But the worst part of it is the police then looked into my record and realised that I'd been done for stealing, I'd had drink driving ban, and they were like, "You can't work at a bank with a criminal record. You just can't do it." So they put me on suspension for 2 weeks, and during that time, my mind still didn't know if I'd lost the job or not. I was unaware at that point in my life. I thought there's still hope. And I remember going into the bank 2 weeks later, and the lady who actually set me up and said, "Yes, you've got the job," was sitting in front of me. And you could tell she absolutely hated me. She was just disgusted by my behaviour of writing yes or no on the application form. And I remember walking out the bank, looking up to the sky, and tears were just rolling down my face. I just thought, everything I do, I haven't got a chance in hell to be successful because I've got a criminal record. And I really, really felt like that at that moment. But I was so fortunate that my mum, my brother and my sister had reopened the door to the relationship with me. Otherwise, I think I might have even felt suicidal at that point. Now, doing the modelling was a great confidence build for me. And the modelling actually then led me on to doing competitions. So the first competition I did was Miss Leicester, which is a local competition which goes through into Miss England. And I got 5th place, and I was really proud of myself. And my mum and my dad, even though they're not together, they still both came to watch me in this competition. And it was a really proud moment. After that competition, I then moved on and did the British Bikini Championship. So I trained in the gym, and I got my body up to a really good spec, and I got 2nd place. And I, again, was really proud of myself. And then the 3rd competition I did was Miss Gala G Casino, which was a group of 40 girls. And there was only one winner, so that was that one. And then the final competition I did was Miss Midlands UK, and again, unfortunately, I didn't get any placement in that, but it was a really good thing to get involved with and to get yourself confidence building up. It was really, really strong, and you meet some great people. So I'm still working in a bar at this point, and I really had a feeling that I wanted to be on television. Because when you do your modelling and you do your competitions, you're like, what's next? TV. It must be TV. So I kept applying for loads of TV shows. Now, at the same point of applying for all these shows, this is when my real awakening started to happen. The real Celestia started to emerge. So I got my driving licence back, and I went over to mum's house on my own, and I would sit in the countryside. I would go to a bench, or I'd go to a river, or I'd go to somewhere where it was just me and the world. No one else, no one to tap into my mental thought, my mental activity. It was just me and my personality. And just by sitting in nature, I started to feel like nature. So the first thing I started to feel was the fact that the trees are helping us breathe. And for me, that's really magical. The second thing I picked up on was the fact that when I was kind of in my car or in my mum's car going down a motorway, there's a lot of people in this world. And then there's a lot of people, and eventually you're like, wow, like there's billions of people, not millions, but billions. People say 7 billion, but I think there's many more than that. We don't know the precise figure. And that for me was a really strong awakening tool. Now, the third awakening was the fact that we're skeletons with 206 bones in our bodies. And I didn't know until, you know what I mean, later on in my life that I was a skeleton. At school, I never thought about being a skeleton. It was something I never even I didn't listen much in class, so I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. And then the fourth awakening, and this was the biggest awakening for me, and this is what holds me today to be the person I am, and that's the fact that we're on a planet. And the thing is, we're not just on a planet. We're on a planet floating in the universe. And that for me is absolutely magic. It is insanely scientifically crazy that I never would imagine that I'm a skeleton on a planet floating in the universe. And just by sitting out in the countryside at night and connecting my soul to the universe spoke to me and it guided me to understand things. And I truly believe that it does. And when I started to figure that out, I just felt my awakening had taken place and Celestia was really born. Because my real full name is Sophie Celestia Barby. Sophie is the druggy alcoholic. Celestia is the beautiful spiritual person who's here to save the humans. And that's the transition of what I went through. So the first TV show that I applied for, well, I applied for a lot, but the first one that I got onto was Naked Attraction on Channel 4. Now, I was applying for loads of TV shows, and at this point, I realised we're on a planet floating in the universe, we're born naked, we're actually realistically probably supposed to be naked. And I just thought, at this point, I really want to be on TV. So I went on a naked dating show, and you know what? It was good fun. I wouldn't do it now, but back then, 4 years ago, I did it, and it was good fun. The second TV show I did was, this is pretty cool. I did Channel 5, and I did Alan Titchmarsh Masterpiece. Now, Alan Titchmarsh Masterpiece is an antiques show where I can bring somebody on the show with me. So guess who I brought with me on an antique show? I brought my mum. After everything I'd done for her, or did to her, would I say, finally I was able to show her that the bridge can be rebuilt. And here I am on this antique show, guessing the antiques with my mum, and it really healed us. It really created a healing mechanism for the evil past that I'd been through. And then the third show that I went on was, again, another one for Channel 5, and that was Who's Hotter Than? And again, I could bring on somebody, and I brought my mum on the show, and it was Who's Hotter Than, you or your mum? Obviously, my mum's hotter. My mum was in her 60s at the time, and I would never ever say that I was hotter than my mum. So within sort of a 6-month time gap, I was on 3 national TV shows, and my mum had never been on television before, and I got my mum on TV twice within 3 months, and she was really proud, and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. Now we're rolling up to 2017, and I was still unaware of my purpose, because you can only do so much modelling, competitions and TV shows till you get to the level of you're like, right, so where's the money? Like, where am I making a living for myself? Like, how am I going to evolve? And what happened was my father got really ill. So he had a house in Cape Town in South Africa, and he got mugged. He got hit round the back of the head with a baseball bat, and he got his wallet stolen, and he broke his hip. So when my dad flew back from South Africa to the UK, he was really steady and very, very brittle, and you know what I mean? It was really difficult time for him. Now, he went through a healing process for a couple of months, and then it was so unfortunate. For some strange reason, my dad decided to pick up a Coke can. There was a bit of litter on the floor. It was a Coke can on the floor. And he just decided to pick it up, like near his house. And he fell and broke his other hip. So within literally a couple of months, my dad had broke both hips, undergoing operations, got the measles, got dementia, and slowly started to die. Now, I had to go to the care home with him and be with him throughout the last sort of year of his life. And it was so difficult for me because I lost the relationship with my dad from age 14 to 21. And then from age 21 to 2017, that was the only time I really started to build the relationship up with him. So I really regret missing that time period. Now, during my dad's time being at the care home, I really had a feeling of entrepreneur in me. I really wanted to I had like an entrepreneur element to me somewhere in there. And the first thing I did was I decided I wanted to do a fashion line. Now, the fashion line was called Celestia Hyde, and I thought of this name because me and my mum went to London, and we were in Hyde Park, and I picked up this leaf, and I pressed the leaf when I came home, and I thought to myself, this can be my logo. And because I had a bold personality, instead of really planning things, I basically dived in straight into the deep end and decided to just go for this fashion line quite quick. Now, I have been fortunate in my life, and I always think some people, they talk about their struggles, but I also have been fortunate. My brother and my sister got £20,000 at a certain age from mum and dad. So at this time, my mum and dad, I got £20,000. Silly old me spent £20,000 on a load of stock from China, got it shipped over, bags and boots and t-shirts with modeling images on. And I thought that I could sell everything within a short amount of time and double the income. That's what I thought. So I had a stand at a show called the NEC in Birmingham, which is a big city in the UK. And it was a week on a stand, and I really believed I could sell all my products, every single one, and I would walk away with at least 60 grand. Now, my mum came to help me. She sat on the stool with me, and we made around about £1,600 in the week. And I was absolutely devastated. I thought, oh my God, I've spent all this money. I've got all these bags and boots and t-shirts, and I've literally just wasted everything by not being ready, not actually finding out the real answers before putting down the cash. So that was something where I really then started to struggle. So I ended up on like the market stalls. I was on eBay trying to get rid of the clothes, and they weren't going down very quickly. Tell me that. I ended up on Leicester Market, which is in the city I live in, and the bags, they started off selling a strong £50, and I ended up selling them at a £5. And then at one point, somebody wanted one for £2.50, and then I was like, oh my God, I hate selling solid products. For me, I don't personally like it. It's not my cup of tea. So a couple of months went by, and unfortunately my father passed away. During that time, it was obviously very difficult. My mum's struggling. My mum and dad, even though they split up, they still had a great connection friendship wise. And it was really difficult because I sat in the room and I watched my dad take his last breath. And I was the only one that spoke at his funeral. I was the only one who turned up to the home when my dad was actually dead and he was in his coffin. I turned up and put my dad liked looking good, and I didn't want him going down in that coffin without him having special things in that coffin. So I put a family picture on his chest. I made him feel special when he was now obviously going into the ground, because you could just put the lid on and put a tracksuit on them and say, right, they're dead now. But for me, my dad was a hard-working, driven, extremely special person, and he deserved to have special things in his coffin around his body to be rememberable. And I'm really, really glad that I did that, because the rest of my family, they didn't want to go and see him. So I was the only person that had the confidence to go and put myself forward. And I was the youngest of the family as well. So losing my dad was hard. But the one thing my dad said to me, he said to me, don't worry, you'll be okay in life because you've got a good personality. Now, at that time, when he said that sentence, that didn't really mean much to me. I thought, okay, good personality, that doesn't mean anything. But it did. Now, 6 months before my dad died, because I knew that he was on the journey to not being here, I said to him, if you could leave me anything, could you leave me the old garage in Leicester? This old garage with boxes and an old car that was somebody else's in there. I said, if you could leave me anything, could you leave me this old garage? So when my dad passed away, I decided to take on this old garage as a project. So I thought, I've been to so many studios during like the modeling and even the TV shows. I was going to like studios, and I really liked it. I really got a kick of going into studios. There's always a really nice environment. It's always really positive and hardworking. And I thought, I'm gonna build a studio out of this old garage. So I sold my car as I didn't have much cash at this point, and I injected the money into the studio. Now, it took me 8 months to build the studio, and during that time, I thought to myself, right, I'm building a photography studio / modeling agency. That's what I thought I was building. As the studio started to look great, I thought, right, I need to have a launch night. So I had my launch night in August 2017. And when I launched, I had 70 people turn up, friends, family, all sorts. And I remember I'd never spoken on a microphone in my life. The DJ was in there and he's like, you got to speak. And I had this piece of paper on a piece of cardboard, and I could just feel the emotion all in me. And I knew it's going to only take me a couple of sentences to just basically, and literally that's all the speech was. It was a big cry. And it was, I thought, I'm successful. I thought, I'm successful. But really, that was just where the seed was planted. The success hadn't even been started yet. But at that point, I thought it had. So a couple of months into having the studio, I was getting some like studio hires, which were really good bread and butter. And I was doing some model days, which were great to attract people in there. And I just want to make a point. This studio is not in a city centre location. If you drove by this studio on a road, you wouldn't even know it was there. Okay? So after a few months went by, I sat in my bedroom on my own and I started basically scouting models through the internet. And I managed to get 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, 60 models on my books. And I think the main reason they said yes, because I'd done my modelling, my competitions and my TV shows, I'd shared the documentary of what I've been doing onto social media. And because I'd created a half-decent profile for myself, all these models were believing that I could do something for them. So there's little old me sitting in my bedroom trying to make this business work. And it got to the point where I was passing Sarah Jane over to the job. Sarah Jane would turn up at the job, and then I would get a phone call saying, Sarah Jane's late. Sarah Jane's drinking alcohol. Sarah Jane's bought her boyfriend. Sarah Jane's underage. And for me, it got to the point where I felt like I was sitting behind a computer screen and I was a middleman for everybody else. And I thought, there's more to me than this. I believe in this world, you have to be 50% about you, but 50% about others. And that's a really important mindset to keep. So December 2018, I did my first women empowerment session. So the modelling agency kind of just sort of like flaked away, if we would say. It was flaky. It just sort of sat there with all these faces on a website. And I just thought, I need to just evolve from this, make something better than this. So I reached out to a selection of different people through the internet, completely at random, never met them before in my life. And I just said, would you like to come to a women empowerment session? And they were like, yeah, we'd love to come. And I said, oh, it's £45. Just come on down and, you know what I mean, we'll have 6 hours together. So during that sort of time period, I was really winging it. So I was asking questions and I was taking photos of people. And I was just doing things that I actually had no expertise in whatsoever. I was completely winging it. But from winging it, it was working. And after I did the women empowerment session, they all left with smiles and happiness and tears and joy. And I thought to myself, wow, I need to create my next session. So for the whole year of 2018, I went through a journey of creating group sessions. So I worked with men, women, children, disabled people, the homeless, gay, lesbian, all the spectrum of people. And the groups varied between 6 to 12 people at a time. And it was really fun, and I learned so much about other people's emotions, feelings, and just listening that everybody wants to be heard. Everybody's got something that they just need a little bit of a helping hand with. So 2019, I started to feel like a boss. I started to feel like a VIP. And VIP means very inspirational person. So I realized that I loved speaking, and I decided to start doing some events and inviting sort of 20 people to come and watch me at the studio. I'd have notes and notes of paper. I would be reading like mad. And I just grew myself within my environment and didn't care what anybody else thought, whatever level I was at, I just winged it. And as the weeks went through, I got better and better and better at it. And I started doing these small events, and the small events got to bigger events. And then in mid 2018, I decided to hire a venue out, and I sold 400 tickets on my own, and I scouted 40 models and got 12 high street designer brands involved in a show. And it was absolutely electric. Then from that, I carried on doing the group sessions, and I started tapping into one-to-one clientele. And I remember my first ever one-to-one client was called Rupin. And he came to me from a client, a guy that I knew who worked at a gym. He recommended me to Rupin. All good and well known that this guy that he got recommended with, I'd never done a one-to-one client before. But Rupin had absolutely no idea that he was my first client. And Rupin stayed with me for a whole year after that. So obviously I was good enough to wing it. And in 2018, at the end of 2018, I had done another event that again had between 400 and 500 people. I scouted another 12 top high street designer brands. And again, it was an extremely powerful hit and a great promotion. So turning into 2019, that's when I realized that I was a confidence life coach and an inspirational speaker. And it takes a long time to pick a coaching niche, because first of all, I thought, I'm a business coach, am I a career coach, am I a relationship coach? You go through like a really, like a journey to like pick what it was. But for me, confidence is something that I really seriously have. It's a massive talent of mine, and it's something that's going to awaken billions of people in this world. And for me, that speaks volumes by me saying billions. You could speak to somebody and they'll go, I want to inspire millions, just 1 million. I'm here to inspire billions, not millions. And that is how confident I am with saying that sentence. And I just think that, you know what I mean, one life, go for it. So 2019, this has been, that for me has been the best year so far. So I built up a really strong connection with getting in my one-to-one clientele. And I decided to launch an event, and the event was called the Role Model Awards. Now, the two events that I'd done, the big events that I'd done prior to this, were called the Matrix. But they didn't, even though they had great time and great meaning, they didn't have that real sense of exact purpose that I was looking for. So the Role Model show was something that I felt was the right direction to head in. Because somebody said to me, "Oh, are you a model?" And I said, "No, darling, I'm a role model." And that for me is something that I really feel like I am. So 25 top role models from across the UK and put them in an on-stage award ceremony with 12 top designer brands. And when I did the show, it really opened the door to show my leadership of as a coach of where I sit on this planet, because all of these other coaches were sitting in my ball game, and I was the owner of the show. And even up to this point, I didn't even have a team. I was still there, the Celestia Barby, the VIP, the only team member. And people really looked up to me. They really seen that I was something special. And that's all I wanted people to recognise me as, something of real value for other people to be able to become more evolved in the way they think, act and look. So after doing that event, I realised that, okay, I have this fantastic photography studio, but I also have a second floor that is full with boxes and crap. And I just thought, you know what? I need to decorate this, and I need to make it look good. So I took a few months out, and I really just started to build the second floor to the studio. And after it was finished, I thought to myself, right, it's now time to write a book. So I started writing a book, and I named the book How to Find Your Real Soul and Become a Boss. I published it back in 2019, and it was a huge success. And it was just so beautiful, because a lot of people who had the book, they were taking selfies and they were sending me their pictures, and it was just such a wonderful experience. And from that book, I then decided to create the Role Model Academy. So the Role Model Academy is something that is still being evolved, still being created, and in sort of the next 2 years, it's going to be absolutely outstanding. So the Role Model Academy is the second floor of the studio, but I can also bring clients downstairs if I need to, because the downstairs studio is so creative that everybody loves going in there. So it's got massive scope for what I'm doing. And the Role Model Academy is the thing that I'm really developing at the moment. And I've created 6 strong packages that I offer, strong courses that I offer. And I created all the courses in my bedroom. And one of the courses is How to Find Your Real Soul and Become a Boss. So that's a 3-day course. That's a group session for 6 people. The second course that I offer is the role model course, which is a life coaching journey for people to come onto. So that's a 6 to 12 sessions, and that can be spread over 6 weeks or 6 months, depending on who that person is and where that person, what journey they're on in their life to fit it in right. And then I do the Evolution Day, which is a 1-day course, which is just stripping that person down completely, and it's really giving them some vision to become better and to become more advanced and more creative within their journey of life. And then the next course I offer is Signature Soul Plan. So that's an online Zoom course, And that is amazing because I get to work with people in America, Dubai, Australia, and I get to speak to people across the world, and I get to be paid for it. And it's incredible to be paid to talk to somebody through a phone is mind-blowingly brilliant. And I sit in the space sometimes even in my own home and I'm doing it, and it's just fantastic. And then the other two courses I offer a social media workshop, which, because I've got 120,000 followers online, a lot of people only have a couple of thousand, or they've only posted a couple of times. But I've posted too much. I'm posting 30 times a day. People can't even keep up with my brain, like the way I think, and they come to me to get the ball rolling and to get the branding right and stuff like that. So that works really well. And then the last course that I offer is the Blueprint, How to Become a Life Coach. And that is something that I've only recently just created. And during lockdown, I sold my first course, and I was so proud of myself. I sold it for £700, and the guy came to me. And the beauty of it was, there's a course, the NLP, which is it's the top life coaching course to go on. And this man had paid £5,000 and he had no idea what to do next. So he came to me and said, I can see you've got this new course. I've just paid X, Y, and Z for this, and I don't know what I'm doing. And then he came to me, and now he knows exactly what he's doing. So at the moment, I am a one-man team. So for me, my plan is to get these courses really pumping out, because where I am at the moment, with COVID-19, we are still in an area of, you know what I mean, quite sort of lockdown-ish ways of going on a lot. So for me, it's just using next year to get these 6 courses really selling like hotcakes, fully booked near enough. I want it to be a waiting list. When they get to the point where that waiting list is happening, I will then 2021 start to build a very extremely creative team. And then from that creative team, obviously for me, it's about creating my second studio, which will be in London. And then the team will grow. And then I will also, fingers crossed, be planting more seeds in other countries for more academies. So for me, it's about giving people a voice, helping people find their worth, giving people a better chance to stand out online, because social media is pretty much everything nowadays. Everybody's online. And helping people realize that we're on a planet floating in the universe and there's 8 billion people. So why can't you be successful? And that for me is the icing on the cake. Why can't you be successful if there's over 8 billion people and you're a good person?
Right.
It only takes for you to hunt like a lion and for you to go out there and piece the jigsaw together for your success. And I tell you what, only takes for you to have the confidence to walk up to people and ask questions and to keep putting your ideas into other people's brains for things to really start to turn. And something that I've done during lockdown and during COVID-19 is I've started doing online interviews. And I've interviewed in the last 2 months around 30 people. And these people have all been very, very amazing people, and I've learned so much, and all that did was taking the time and the confidence to reach out and say, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Great profile. Would you like to do an interview? And what happens when you team up with good people, your value rubs. And when your value rubs and you take videos and you take photos, other people see that you've connected with that other piece of value. And then, like a big chocolate cake, all the little ants, they come running to the chocolate cake because they want a piece of your cake. And I am building a very special cake back here. And I am just so thankful that I'm not only a confidence life coach, but I'm also an inspirational speaker who is not only building these incredible academies, but also putting myself on stage, and definitely over the next few years going to be traveling the world, speaking and opening up to billions of humans above ground with all their hearts beating, celebrating life. And that for me is what it's about. It's about coming together, celebrating life with purpose.
Awesome. Well,
That's
Celestia,
it.
thank you so much for sharing your message and really your life journey. What an inspiration to see, you know, the turnaround that you've had over the last 10 years. And I think that this is really going to help a lot of kids out there who are, you know, everybody, when you're 14, you're vulnerable. You can go one of two directions. And so it's great to see your story as a cautionary tale for what can go wrong, but to see how you were able to turn things around, and what an inspiration you are now as you're reaching out and looking for those role models and building that chocolate cake. So it's fantastic.
That's it. 100%.
Yeah.
And the thing is, never be scared. That's the most important thing. And I think one of my famous quotes, and I'll leave you with this, is, you must be a fool to harm your own soul.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Celestia. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, my lovely. We'll speak soon.